I don't need someone putting thoughts into my mind that could end up as deeds through my actions.
Growing up, my mother, she tried to teach my sister and I this idea that be careful with the words you choose, because if you say them, they become reality. And I'm 10, 11 years old, and that's ridiculous. My mother's a crackpot. How could words become, doesn't even make sense.
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast, hosted by Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race, and brought to you by Wild Health.
We are talking about overcoming obstacles. The same way we teach people to get over obstacles on the course, we will teach you here on the Spartan Up podcast to get over obstacles in your mind.
Get fully personalized healthcare based on your DNA, biometrics, and blood work with Wild Health, the official healthcare provider of Spartan. Go to wildhealth.com and use the code SPARTAN10 to save 10%. Fit Aid Energy is naturally sweetened with only 15 calories, no sucralose, no aspartame, and no compromises. Visit lifeaidbevco.com and use the code SPARTANEnergy to save 20% when you sign up for a subscription today. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Durolane, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months relief from osteoarthritis knee pain. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. You can see full prescribing information at durolane.com.
Joe De Sena, CEO of Spartan and the Spartan Up podcast. I've got a good one for you today. I got a guy with a true, I call it an immigrant mentality. Hopefully that's politically correct. Bedros Keuilian, founder of Fit Body Bootcamp. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
This guy gets it done. Super inspirator. And, I've been talking to my kids about this idea of an immigrant mentality. Tell me your thoughts on that, because you're it. You live it.
Yeah, you know what? Many years ago, about 8 years ago, one of my videographers, it was probably 11 years ago now that I think about it. So we were just coming out of the housing market crash. And I was in the midst of, telling him how we're going to build Fit Body Bootcamp even bigger. We're going to have locations all across the country. This is before we had hundreds of locations in, different countries. And he just stopped the camera and he looked at me. He goes, "You know what your problem is?" I go, "What?" He goes, "You've got the immigrant edge." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You've got this mentality that everyone else doesn't. There's an 11% unemployment rate and people are out of jobs. People say they don't have money, yet you're talking about growth and prosperity and servitude." And I said, "Well, the money didn't go away, Rob. The money just exchanged hands. And our job is to add value in exchange for the money from the people that have it." And that immigrant mentality has always been something that I guess it's been instilled in me since obviously we escaped the Soviet Union when I was 6 years old, came to the United States. And for me, it was the greatest gift that my mom and dad could give me, Joe. The ability to come to a country where you have opportunity, you have freedom. And as long as you serve the people here, the country will serve you. That's what my dad told me. I believed him. And based off those three principles, I just plowed ahead. And it doesn't matter how bad the economy is, doesn't matter how bad my situation is. I've lived in Section 8 housing. I've eaten out of dumpsters when we came to this country. I didn't speak English. I didn't understand the culture. I been to 3 elementary schools, 2 junior highs, 2 high schools. So to me, go ahead. Give me the worst of the economy. It's still the United States, man. And we have freedom. We have opportunities that no other country has. And so with that mindset, I feel like I've got this edge over most people. And what I wish is that everyone would experience a third world country at some point in their teens, especially, so that they could understand how good we have it here, even when things are bad.
I grew up in a crazy neighborhood in Queens, not quite Russia. We didn't have to eat out of dumpsters, thankfully. But I remember some old Italians saying to me, "Well, I lose everything, things go wrong, I go back to Italy with 2 shoes. I came here with 2 shoes, I go back with 2 shoes." And it was really profound to think about that, because we do get so caught up in the stuff. And oh my God, what if this happens? And, when I land, I fly around a lot. And when I land, folks will say to me, "How was the flight?" Well, the plane landed. It didn't have to land.
True.
When you look through life with those lenses, you tell me, it just makes life easier.
That's exactly right. I think, people have gotten so comfortable and complacent and entitled. And I think that is poison. When you're up 35,000 feet up in the air, hurtling at 570 miles per hour, let's just remind humanity for a moment. We don't have wings. You don't have feathers. You don't have wings. And people get all bent out of shape because their warm nuts were cold or they're unable to log on to the internet. Are you fucking nuts, man? Like, are you fucking nuts? You're 35,000 feet up in the air, hurtling at like almost 600 miles per hour, and you're upset because your nuts weren't warm or you're having a hard time logging onto the internet. Fucking every flight attendant should be able to just slap every passenger who thinks that way. And again, maybe that's just a communist mentality that I have, where my dad would just slap me around and knock sense into me when I would get this way. But the reality is, like, dude, relax. You're getting to a destination that people would have to go on wagon trails, and maybe 20% would get there over weeks. And here you are flying in comfort and watching your favorite show and upset that they can't log on to the internet. And it's the comfort, it's the convenience, it is a sense of entitlement that people have developed. And you know what it is? We're weird as humans, man. We get to the slippery slope where you give a human an inch, they'll expect a mile. And so I get it. It's supposed to be that way. It's like, oh, I've got a great idea. There's a river. I'm a caveman. I need water. I'm tired of taking a hollow stump and then filling up this water and then trying to fight the saber-toothed tiger to get the water to my cave. Maybe I'll make a pipe. But then soon the pipe's not enough. Now I need to make a shower. Now I need to make a basin. And before you know it, we get so weak and we stop training our mental muscles, and we stop seeking adversity and suffering and challenges and problem solving. And when the human mind can't overcome a challenge and adversity, and things have gotten too comfortable and too convenient, before you know it, you start feeling anxiety. You start feeling depressed, because we are designed to solve problems, my friend. We're designed to figure things out. And today, they go onto their goofy little app on their iPhones, and they could track their burrito coming down the street with some Uber Eats or Grubhub. You shouldn't have to do that. You should go and hunt. You know what? If everyone had to hunt for their fucking meals 3 times a day, and I don't mean like go hunt, like actually go to a store, buy your raw ingredients, cook it up. That would be enough adversity for people today to start feeling a sense of appreciation again, instead of being able to track where their burrito is and get upset because it's stuck at the light because the guy's dealing with traffic.
I'm going to start Spartan food hunts, just like Uber Eats. We drop your burrito off randomly somewhere. You have no idea where it is. You got to go find it.
How satisfying would that shitty burrito taste afterwards?
That's the thing I love about doing crazy things and taking stuff away from your life is you then appreciate everything you get. It's the best. I was out on a crazy run about a month ago with some buddies. We try to get together once a year and do something big, but I was hurting. And this woman was selling grapes on the side of the road, green grapes. Mm. And we didn't have money on us. We scraped together a little bit of money between the 3 of us, and we got call it 30 grapes. They were hands down the best grapes I ever had in my entire life. But it was because I was starving, dehydrated, and dying.
And we need to experience more of that in life, man. We really do.
We really do. So you wrote a book.
So the book, while entitled Man Up, it has nothing to do with being a tough guy or any of that stuff. It's really about human up to your highest potential. This is being an entrepreneur, and maybe for you, leadership may have been factory installed. I don't know. But for me, it is not a factory installed thing. I had to learn to flex my leadership muscles. I had to develop those muscles. And so as I was growing Fit Body Bootcamp, being a marketer is one thing. Being able to articulate a message and share it on YouTube, maybe it's yourself and your wife. That's how I started out. That's one thing. And before you know it, we had 1 or 2 employees. And right around the time I got to about 9 or 10 employees, I realized I don't know how to manage people. I'm passive aggressive in terms of asking for what I want. I don't have a clear vision. Back then, Joe, if you asked me back in 2010, 2011, if you asked me, Bedros, how many Fit Body Bootcamp locations do you want? I would have said a lot. And if you said, well, when do you want them by? I would have said as soon as possible. What kind of a vision is that? So when I tell my 9 employees at the time that I want a lot of locations as soon as possible, well, to one person, that might mean 5,000 locations in a year. To the next person, it might mean 5 locations in 5 years. And so I would get upset. So I had no clear communication skills. in terms of leadership. I had a poor vision. I had no idea what our day-to-day mission should be to get to a lot of locations. And so I would get frustrated with my employees. I was indecisive. I was emotionally, I would have these outbursts. I would just stay quiet, get passive aggressive, and then have an outburst. And I would be shocked when 3 employees would quit at one time. And I realized that over time, as I was able to build Fit Body Bootcamp up, thankfully, I had this massive panic attack at 2014, the beginning of 2014. This panic attack led me to going to the doctor. The doctor tells me, because I swear, man, I thought I was having a heart attack when I was having it. And all I could remember thinking when I was having this thing is, who's going to walk Chloe down the aisle, my daughter? Who's going to teach Andrew, my son, to be a modern day knight? And man, I'm breaking a promise to my wife that I'd be with her till the end. And boy, the end sure came quickly, because I'm 48 now. That was about 11 years ago, so I was 37. And as this panic attack washed away, I was just left in a puddle of sweat. Went to the doctor the next day. They put me through the whole EKG test. They're like, your heart's fine. However, there was probably a panic attack. And truth is, I was so white knuckling through life trying to build a business. There is no master's program that teaches you how to build a business. I know there's MBAs and there's all these PhDs that teach you marketing and whatever, but in the real world, you have to learn to suffer and eat a lot of shit to build a business. And so as I started to read books about leadership from anything I can get my hands on, from military to business to athletes, to scholars, to stoicism, I learned so much about leadership that I was able to apply it to my business over the next 2 years. And in those 2 years, we started hockey sticking Fit Body Bootcamp. And the following 3 years, we hit the Inc. magazine's 500 fastest growing franchises, Entrepreneur magazine's top 200 franchises. And it wasn't a coincidence. I became more decisive. I had a very clear vision that I knew I wanted 2,500 Fit Body Bootcamp locations by the year 2026. I knew exactly what kind of employees I was looking for, and I didn't want them to be employees. I wanted them to be team members. Employees clock out a little early, clock in a little late. They do the bare minimum to maintain employment, whereas a team member, as you know, is unified in the vision, believes in, is bought into the vision, and plays to win. And so I created these 6 pillars of leadership, and I said, I'm going to stick to them. And pillar number 1 is, don't be a hypocrite. Don't be an imposter. Like, lead from the front. And so I was like, all right, fat boy, you've been stress eating, even though you're in the fitness industry. I was making videos from the chin up because I was too embarrassed to show anything else. I was like, all right, first get in shape again and start leading from the front. Show up early to meetings, be prepared to meetings, be very clear on what you want. And as I started to do that, some of my employees quit, but the rest started to level up. And then soon we started attracting people that were really focused. We started building core values, 3 core values: be relentlessly focused, drive change, and exceed expectations. 3 core values. And we measured everybody hired and fired by those 3 core values. And before you know it, the company hockey sticks, and was all because of those 6 pillars of entrepreneurial leadership that I figured out and applied. Some of them I learned through reading books about Navy SEALs and how they will prioritize and execute, how they, before they go on a mission, they have to decide, is this mission a kill mission, a capture mission, or is it just reconnaissance mission? I would do things and I wouldn't even know what the outcome was supposed to be. And so how is your team going to feel a sense of like, man, I really trust the boss here? And so as I became a better leader, I began to hockey stick my business. I began to attract better team members. Today, we've got, between all of our companies, we've got over 50 employees in-house and another 30 around the country. And it's really neat, man, to be able to go from 0 leadership skills to pretty solid leadership skills. I'm still a work in progress, but to see the difference, man, is massive. So Man Up is about manning up to your higher potential. In my case, as a leader, and it helped in my family too. I was a poor communicator with my wife. We had no family vision as well. We had no family core values. We developed those. So everything I did in the business, we did in the family, and things improved there. And so Man Up is really about just leveling up to your highest self so that you can reach your potential, whatever that is for you.
I love that story. I love I love the fact that just because you don't have it factory installed doesn't mean you can't learn it and earn it.
There's one simple thing that takes a few minutes a day and can actually improve your happiness by 25%. I'm Dr. Matt Dawson with Wild Health, Spartan's official healthcare partner. We all know that gratitude is important, but did you know it not only can increase happiness and decrease anxiety and depression, but also has other health benefits like lowering blood pressure, decreasing cardiovascular risk, and a lot of others as well. There are many different ways to practice gratitude. It could be as simple as writing down 5 things each day that you're grateful for and varying those each day. Or it could be at night as you're going to sleep, thinking of 2 things that made you really happy throughout the day. These different methods have been studied, and one that actually stands out and seems to have more profound effects that last longer is a gratitude letter. This is a letter that you write to someone who you're really grateful for. It's not an email, it's a handwritten letter. It's not mailed, it's given to them and delivered to them in person. This has been shown to have a really profound effect, not only for you, but also potentially for the person you're delivering it to. Whatever method of gratitude you choose to practice, start today. It's free, it's easy, and it has a profound effect on your health.
Wild Health, the official healthcare provider of Spartan.
And business is definitely a school of hard knocks. I mean, you said it fast. My father used to say to me, Joseph, he would say, you've got to have the stomach to be an entrepreneur. I didn't understand what that meant, but oh my goodness, when you phrase it the way you did, you got to eat a lot of shit. Oh, it never ends. Even when you think you made it, there's another pile of shit to eat.
Bro, you'll appreciate this. What university? Yale, Harvard, like Rutgers, and I don't even know about universities because I dropped out of college, junior college, in 32 days. That's how of a scholar I am. But what university out there teaches you how to deal with the pandemic and a global shutdown? Not a goddamn one. And you and I have experiential events, right? Whether they're at my gyms or whether at your Spartan races, like you had to figure that shit out. You had to eat a lot of shit sandwiches in 2020, just like I did, and make as many pivots as necessary to get it done.
That pandemic was no joke. It was a challenge through and through. And I'm convinced, I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm convinced most people quit in instances like that.
Yes.
The naysayers pile on, the neighbors come over and tell your wife, hey, you should have told them not to get into that business. That was a bad idea, right? Everybody starts piling on. They love that negativity. And that's where people tap out, except what I found, the people that don't tap out are the ones that have that mindset of, you know what? It's not that bad. It could be worse. I could be living in northern Siberia right now, but I'm not.
Yep. Goes back to the lesson that you just said earlier, which is, hey, worst case scenario, I go back to Italy with my 2 shoes that I showed up with. If we are willing to accept the worst case scenario as an acceptable outcome, then you can go, it's not the worst case scenario yet. I'm not stuck with just a pair of shoes yet, so I'm okay. But you're right, man. So many people are willing to tell their problems to everyone, and then everyone around them, because they're mentally weak and fragile, begin to pile on and go, you know what? Like you said, you shouldn't have got into that business. I could understand why you want to shut down. Maybe it's best that you start saving your money. Like, who in business has ever made it out of a recession or a depression or a pandemic now by saving their way through the pandemic? I was spending like my life depended on it. And because I was like, I got to find leads somewhere for my franchise. I got to find leads somewhere for my project. I got to find leads somewhere for my coaching business. And so that mindset that you said is the determining factor. And then also, you got to be a little crazy, right? You got to be a little out there, where I was willing to cut out everybody in my life in 2020 who even said that this might be the end of Fit Body Bootcamp, or hinted that, hey, this might be it, or have you considered selling off 70, 80% of the shares to private equity? Because let me tell you, they were knocking on my door and offering me pennies on the dollar. People that would just hint that to me, I would shun them. And I'm like, you're dead to me now. You're dead to me. Because I don't even want to entertain that thought, because as Napoleon Hill says, anything that I think about, I will manifest into my reality. And I don't need someone putting thoughts into my actions into my mind that could end up as deeds through my actions.
I remember growing up, my mother, she got into yoga and meditation when I was very young. And she tried to teach my sister and I this idea that be careful with the words you choose, because if you say them, they become reality. And I'm 10, 11 years old, and that's ridiculous. My mother's a crackpot. How could words become, doesn't even make sense. And sure enough, I've seen it where I've manifested like, hey, we're going to be an Olympic sport. I don't know how we're going to do that, but I just say it. You know what I mean? Just say it over and over and over. And then all of a sudden it starts to happen, and you really can will it. So I agree with you 100%. Words and thoughts become reality. What's this idea? I heard you say something about, look, when you're outside the cave, when you're outside the house, away from the family, be a warrior. When you come back, act a little more like a monk.
In other words, it's okay to be a lion and a lamb. And my dear friend, John Lovell, former Army Ranger, also founder of the Warrior Poet Network, great human being, says it well. He says, look, it's okay to be a lion out there when you have to go and earn and hunt and kill and do what a man must do, or do what a woman must do in this day and age to earn and get the piece of action that you're looking for. But it's also okay to put your armor down and become that monk or become that lamb. Everyone's gotten this whole thing like, oh, hey, don't be a lamb, don't be a sheep, don't be soft. And do you really want to show up with armor to your wife and kids? Because when I did, that led me to the brink of falling apart in terms of my marriage. And as I was working with a therapist to help with my anxiety, I remember asking him over and over again, like, I don't understand why my wife and kids ignore me when I come home. And he looked at me as he's leaning back in his chair, old wise dude. He's got no eyebrows, white hair that sticks up like Einstein. His name is Kevin Downing, almost 70 years old. And he's leaning back in his chair, Joe. And he goes, Bedros, you are so intense. We're in this tiny room, and it seems like you're going to jump off that couch and attack me. He goes, I feel like I'm threatened. I could imagine that your wife and kids, how they might feel when you come home. I was like, Kevin, this is the face that God's given me, man, right? And he goes, describe your house to me. And so I'm like, all right, well, I got the 65-yard driveway that I go down. It's a detached garage, and I park in the garage, and then I walk out of the door of the garage, and I walk across the pool deck to the house. He goes, okay, one, when you're in the garage, I want you to just imagine like this smile coming over your face. We got to change that ugly grimace. He goes, two, as you're walking across your pool deck, let that be the threshold where your armor falls off. And he goes, the lion stays outside, the lamb walks in. And I literally, till this day, every evening at 6 p.m. as I'm walking across the pool deck, there's a shit-eating grin on my face, no matter how bad the day was. And I feel I metaphorically, my helmet comes off, my chest plate comes off, my sword falls to the ground is what I picture. And in walks in happy Bedros, because at 6 foot, 230 pounds with an ugly grimace, I do look pretty threatening. And I was shocked that my wife and kids, I was putting off this repelling energy, and I was shocked why my wife and kids and my employees would want nothing to do with me. And I realized that if I just change my energy and allow myself to be a lamb when needed and a lion when needed, then my kids will come to me. It took about 6 weeks. It wasn't immediate, but soon the kids started to come running over to me. My wife would meet me at the back door because I think she was like, all right, this is bullshit. He's just doing this temporarily. He's going to go back to being that asshole, right? And after about 6 weeks, she would greet me at the French doors in the back, and the kids would come running. And I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome. Because, man, you know how it is. You see someone and you make eye contact and you smile, and you can sense that their guard went down. But if you've got this grimace on your face, their reptilian mind goes fists up. And so I had to learn that to be a lion and a lamb and not just always be in armor. Because also that armor is heavy, man. It weighs on you. If you're thinking about Spartan and everything that has to do with Spartan at 10 o'clock at night while you're trying to go to bed, you can't solve any problems at 10 o'clock at night, nor can I. I might as well enjoy some time with my wife, love her up, and then fall asleep, and then put my armor back on and go to war the next morning instead of trying to go to battle with her, right?
Make sure you have your armor on in the correct locations.
Amen.
I'll tell you, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about if my wife and I were doing a lineup and the kids were let loose, all 4 of them would run to her. They would not. Right? They would not run to me. And so I could definitely use a little more lamb, for sure. around them. But I do say to myself, look, I'm not looking to build friendships here. I'm looking to build young adults, right? And my mom, believe it or not, was the tougher one on me growing up. And it was really, I was 27 or 28 years old when I finally said she was right. My father was wrong. Like she was manning me up.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't looking to make friends. So anyway, just another thing to think about. I actually brought this for you. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Somebody sent me this little
I
pack,
love that.
right?
This is not hard.
This is not, for those listening, this is not hard. Just a little patch I had here for Bedros. How do people find you?
Best way to find me is on Instagram at Bedros Keuilian. I'm active on there. I respond to my DMs as quickly as I can, and I've got a great team who's also very responsive on there.
Well, you're awesome. I want to get together at some point, and I'm glad we met.
I appreciate you, and I thank you for what you do. Seriously, you are helping humanity level up, and it is much needed in this day and age. So thank you for what you do, Joe.
Fit8 Energy is naturally sweetened with only 15 calories, no sucralose, no aspartame, and no compromises. Visit lifeaidbevco.com and use the code Spartan Energy to save 20% when you sign up for a subscription today. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Durolane, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months relief from osteoarthritis knee pain. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. You can see full prescribing information at durolane.com. Maximize energy, optimize nutrition, and improve performance with Wild Health. Personalized precision healthcare built for Spartans. You'll get a personalized health plan based on your DNA and biometrics and the support of a team of health experts. Sign up at wildhealth.com with the code Spartan10 to save 10%.